Evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle podcast. Into the hat for round 2 of the FA Cup. Bit of a mixed reaction, I think, from some fans. Peterborough away. Hands up all those who were there pre-season when we saw not one but 2 games of football at Peterborough in pre-season. So we head off there again. Should get plenty of tickets, so we should better accommodate all the demand for that one. League action, back again. Doncaster, little short trip. We've sold all 3,000 tickets for that one, so it should be a cracking atmosphere. Your thoughts perhaps on Giovanni Brown on the score sheet, getting some assists. One or two people said a bit of a slow burner to start, but your thoughts on Giovanni, can that kickstart his time at Notts County? Also, let's just kick off with the evening with Mad Dog Martin Allen. Mad Dog barks in the big shed at the Trent Navigation. Lots of tickets already sold. Thank you so much for everyone that's already bought them. There is a link floating around on the message boards. You just click on that. And you can buy your tickets. It's 10 quid plus £1 booking. So in total, it's £11. Plenty sold already. It is limited. So the quicker you can get your ticket, you can quickly get it all lined up. Friday, December the 6th. It's the night before the Saturday afternoon home game with Colchester. So for those of you, I know there's quite a few who travel quite a long way, maybe try and come up on a Friday, have an evening with myself and Stell and Martin Allen on the Friday night, stay up at a Treat Travel Lodge or something, or some mates, and then do the game on Saturday afternoon. Couple of people have been in touch just saying navigation, not the nest. Right, it's all above board, don't worry. We've been speaking with the club for probably months about hosting one of these types of events. Now the nest have got their own program of Christmas events, and we did want to do this in December with Martin, with his availability. And the club have also got a fans forum coming up with the head coach and one or two other people later this month. So we didn't want to conflict with that. So it's a standalone event at the Navigation this time, but in 2025 we'll be looking to have some other nice events at the nest. So hopefully that clarifies that. For those who've got your tickets, thank you. For those that not, act quick. Quicker you buy, better the ticket you get. That's enough of the promos. Stell, good evening.
Evening.
Yes. What did I tell you? I don't know what you're like, but I quite like a Friday now and again. But then Saturday just becomes, I don't know. I always think, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. But you just kind of have withdrawal symptoms on a Saturday afternoon that you're not watching Notts play here or wherever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Friday night, it's decent, gives you the weekend, and you think, what am I going to do with it? And previously, whenever I had a weekend to myself, I find myself sat in front of the telly watching the football scores come in, thinking, well, this is not what I've spent all my life. But like all of us, on Saturday is football day. So this week we went to Lincoln this weekend. Me and the missus actually had a train trip to Lincoln for something different. For the couple of years I played there, never actually went out in Lincoln city centre. So we went out and had a wander up past the cathedral and all around the centre there. So yeah, but it's strange not having football. So yeah, glad to get back to Saturday games.
Yeah, Lincoln. Yeah, I mean, the last time I was there, unfortunately, I was there for former Notts manager. You would know him, Colin Murphy. At his funeral, I think it was last year. Don't think it was earlier this year. I tend to lose all semblance of time. And sellout crowd in the actual cathedral. Massive turnout for him. Yeah, beautiful setting, beautiful venue at the top of that hill. Goodness only knows why they've scrapped that Christmas market at Lincoln. I have no idea. But yeah, nice part up at the top. Nice part up at the top. Let's get a few thoughts before we get into some more meaty subjects. Phil Summo was spotter's badge as late as 12 minutes past 6 tonight. Evening all, great win in the cup. Come on, you pies. What have we got? Richard Terry, greetings again. He's our posh member of our flock from Woodborough. Thoroughly enjoyed the entertainment value of Friday night's performance. Extremely glad football moved on from the long ball head tennis. He sent it twice. Just I'm not going to read it twice, and the greetings from Paul Huskerson, Rich Hawksworth, Graham Oates, and Steve, Richard Elvian as well. Evening from Stuart Newton. Enjoyed Friday's game. Not overly enthused about the draw to Peterborough, but I'm sure it will be an enjoyable trip by the time it comes around. Evening from Ian Hayward. Ady Clark, mixed loyalties marginally. He lives in Alfreton, does Ady, but he's a Notts man. Enjoyed that game. Good atmosphere from Alfreton. Could have been a tricky night, but Notts did a professional job. Giovanni Brown, really coming into his own and winning the fans over. Lippy Jane, I still like the FA Cup. If there is a draw, it's very unfair on the small teams physically to do extra time and penalties. Also, the excitement of the return match and money for the community. Lippy Jane, yeah, not happy as many people aren't about basically the tie will always be decided on the night or on the day. No replays anymore. I guess Weston-super-Mare will be one that would fit into that category after drawing with Bristol Rovers after 90 minutes. Massive local derby with Bristol. They would have gone back to Weston-super-Mare. Would have been a fantastic occasion. But of course, it's extra time and it's penalties and they got turned over. Rich Hawksworth, Giovanni Brown, discuss. Showing now how he may be a shrewd acquisition given his contributions over the last 3 to 4 games. Thoughts all, please. Evening from Mark Williams. Mark Bradley. Peterborough in the next round of the Cup. Not the easiest of ties that we could have had, but still a winnable one. Hopefully we go to Doncaster on Saturday and play like we did them last season. Professional approach from the manager, says Ian Cooksey, regarding team selection and the substitutions on Friday night. What a month it's going to be, says Royston. Gazali, I cannot understand the downbeat comments about Peterborough away. We've great form on the road and we will take circa 2,000 fans at just over an hour's drive. Get behind the lads. I'm sure it'll be a good occasion. Gaza. Richard Elvian, they seem to have found the right position to play Giovanni and be effective. A good confidence booster for him on Friday night. Evening from Graham Oates, from Fine Leg, and Jamie Comrie and Kay and Karen Knight and Pythagorean. Dave Woolley as well. Kay adds, Jody posting soon makes me feel positive. Now, I am hearing one or two little rumours regards Jody Jones that his rehab is going very well. I think originally there was an estimate of January. Now, these things tend to have peaks and troughs when you're recovering from certain injury, but I'm told at the minute he's doing extremely well in his comeback. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Royston, who gets the nod Saturday between Brown, Jatta and Didsey. Stel, we were all kind of like guesstimating teams, would you play Alex Bass? Wouldn't you play him? One of Jatta, McGoldrick. It was a strong team, wasn't it? It was a strong team.
Yeah, it was. 3 changes, I think it was, wasn't it, from the previous team? And you can understand the changes that he made. Chance to bring Lucas Ness in and, get minutes in, obviously, and the rest of the team as well. So I can understand, the changes that were made. And it works. When you get through, with a decent clinical performance, certainly in the second half. Your team selection is justified, isn't it? And then, as people have been mentioning, Giovanni Brown breaks his duck, scores the penalty. He's had a couple of assists in the game, scores the penalty, then gets a goal from open play. Then you think, well, that's just maybe work, done his confidence a bit of good, and everything looks rosy. I'm not sure we'd all be thinking that at half time, but that it was a good test. You've got to give credit to Alfreton. These, we call them banana skins in the FA Cups. That's exactly what they are. There's not a lot to be gained out of winning the game. Everyone go, well, you should beat a part-time Alfreton team as good as they are. You should be beating them two divisions higher. That's the way it proved. But they were a tough nut to crack, particularly in the first half. I think second half, because they've been chasing the ball quite a bit, I think the legs just went a little bit. and Notts' quality showed through, and they played with a bit more intent in the second half, Notts. And they got the rewards, and I think 5-1 flattered us a little bit, but that shows how clinical we were on the night. So a good night all in all. Hopefully no new injuries, no new knocks for anybody. And the fact that we have had players missing, hopefully by Doncaster on Saturday we might have one or two more available to us than Stuart had certainly by Friday night, but maybe even the week before.
Was it a case, Stel, do you think, of old pros pulling rank? Young Riley Reynolds comes on, wins the penalty, goes down, gets back up, but by the time he's got back up, Giovanni Brown has already made a sharp movement to get the ball. So young Riley wasn't given an opportunity to score his first goal. Up steps Giovanni Brown.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd have done exactly the same in that situation if I was there. Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, football isn't a charity event. It is not a charity event. Yeah, of course, when you're winning and the game's beyond doubt, then you can try and pass it around. But I think Riley Reynolds' time will come. He's got a decent future ahead of him. But I think for the immediate future, for Giovanni Brown to get up and running, I think it was probably the right decision for him to take the penalty. Obviously, he has to score it still, but hopefully that might be a catalyst for him to kick on and do some good stuff while he's in a Notts shirt.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, Stella. I'm not sure after 15, 20, 25 minutes, they went one up. And the big unit Day, I had a little look, and prolific at non-league. He's been a part-time boxer as well, obviously a heavyweight. It wouldn't have got in any other weight than that. But I mean, he was a handful, to be fair. And like you say, I thought they were certainly up till half time. They were quite decent, really. They were quite decent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he looked like he could have been a boxer, didn't he? He was a hell of a size, and I'm sure if you ask Matty Platt and Lucas Ness and Jacob Beddoe were up against him, he could stand his ground as well. And I was critical in the first half, the amount of times he was allowed to bring the ball down on his chest. Yeah. It happened in the first minute from kickoff. It happened for the goal. He brings it down his chest. Okay, the shot, a bit of a scuff shot and ricochet, but falls into the lad's path for the goal. And it happened a couple of times. So never like to see that, because like I say, I was not quite that size, but I was a decent size. You're always battling with a defender, and if you feel you can bully a defender and outstrengthen them and bring the ball down your chest, that sets your team up. So I thought he posed problems in the first half. Second half, we were a lot better all over the pitch, controlled the game a lot better, and he drifted out of the game. But yeah, in the first half hour or so, he was a real handful, physical presence. But this is what you have to come up against in football. You have to find a way of sort of nullifying whatever threat. It might be somebody small and nippy with pace, or somebody big like him who's not the most mobile, but certainly going to stand his ground and not give you an easy time. So I thought we eventually dealt with them really well. It's a job well done, really, because again, banana skins, they're only there for you to fall flat on your face, aren't you? There's no real winning in them games. You just, like I say, people will say you've done the job you've been expected to do by winning. Now, with the draw, whatever your thoughts on it, and it's a tough one, particularly tough one. But you look at it and go, well, really, from a Notts perspective, the boot's on the other foot now. Not that it's a free hit or anything like that, but Peterborough at home will be the team that's expected to win, division above. So Notts can go there as underdogs and say, hopefully go and show the ability that they've got and cause a slight upset, I'm going to say, and get in the third round.
Yeah, I wonder if Sir Alex Ferguson will be there again. It largely went unnoticed in the double-header pre-season friend we had that Sir Alex was there. Obviously, his son Darren is manager at Peterborough, and now he's lost that multi-million-pound ambassadorship at Manchester United. Maybe he'll come down and watch.
Yeah, he might not be able to afford the train ticket.
James Moore says, my brother Richard and the Magpie Circle resident favourite Adi Clark and some of the other Elfriton Magpies, the little group of them, were shamefully sat with the Elfriton fans in the away end. As long as they didn't chant "You Reds," Elfriton playing red, we might have them back. Did you climb the big hill, Stell, says Andy Eason. It's called Steep Hill, according to Lippy Joan. I know the one you mean. I bet you couldn't run up and down there 2 or 3 times, could you?
I blooming couldn't. You're right. I say we walked up there, me and the missus, and believe me, we were a lot quicker on the way back down, but we needed some liquid refreshment at the top, so we stopped and had a couple of drinks. But
it's a nice little it's a lovely little part, isn't it? Just outside the cathedral, the winding little really old boozers and things like that. It's nice.
Yeah, it is. It's a lovely bit, but like I say, you're not thinking that 3/4 of the way up it when your thighs are screaming.
Dizzle 12 Friday night will have done Giovanni the world of good. He showed spells of great footwork and some great passes. Hopefully he kicks on with some more goals now he's off the mark. Matt Arnold said, Friday night suited me. I went to watch Hucknall Town on the Saturday. Yeah, indeed. Yes. I was Derek Flowers, who can be a tad cynical, Derek. I was ready to offer Giovanni a lift back to Bristol, but I hold my hands up, and he's been okay for the last couple of games. James Moore says, I'm confident for Peterborough. They aren't having the best of times, mid-table in League One, and Notts have one of the best away forms in the country. We have nothing to fear. Ian Haywood, what a goal by Platt to level the score. Not sure the Elfriton keeper would necessarily agree with you, Ian. Colin Metcalf, no defence last season. Would never have dealt with the juggernaut Elfriton lad up front. Gasly, Giovanni's done what Josh Martin so far hasn't been able to. Jatta was on penalty duties according to Stewart, says Ian Haywood. So he was annoyed he got brought off. Laughs out loud, says Ian. Dizzle, do we think the Peterborough game will fall on the Saturday? My best information is that it will. TV games haven't been chosen yet. Unlikely to be chosen as a live game. Unlikely to be chosen for those number of games they pick on a Sunday. No issues with the police in terms of one town or one city with 2 clubs. So hopefully should be a 3 o'clock Saturday on that. I'll tell you what though, Stel, we were both a bit off it. Great attendance, 6,500, 1,300 from Elfriton. And although they were reduced prices, it weren't a tenner, it was still 15 quid. I thought that was a great crowd for an FA Cup first round game. Great crowd.
Yeah, brilliant. It really is good. I mean, that is almost as good as the sort of 10,000 average in the league, because as you say, they're not included in season tickets, are they? The cup games, okay, 1,300 from Alfreton, well, that still means over 5,000 sort of Notts fans there for a game that's not, it's not a fiver or a tenner, it's 15 quid to come and see. And on a Friday night, when people obviously do everything, do other stuff on a Friday night, it might be easy for people to say, do you know what, I'll save me money, I'll stay in. It was sort of bonfire Halloween weekend, wasn't it? Things like that. So really, like I say, I was thinking about 4,000 or so. I thought it might be down there. So I was well and truly done with that. So yeah, absolute credit to the Notts fans again.
Matt Arnold, Peterborough does have 2 teams. You're quite right, but not professional. Peterborough United and Peterborough Sports, who, when I worked at the Peterborough Evening Telegraph in the Jurassic era 30 years ago, were in the local Peterborough and District Senior League. They're now National League North, I think.
Well, but am I right in thinking Alfreton are playing them tomorrow? Peterborough Sports. I think that's their next
I'm sure game. You will know.
I'm sure I had a look at that the other day. Yeah, but in the build up for the game, I'll be stand corrected if that's wrong, but I'm sure I had that in mind that they got them on Tuesday, i.e. tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, they literally were just a Saturday local senior league team when I was there, but they've had a mercurial rise through the divisions. Greetings to America from Price Trazin, whatever that is. Greetings from the USA, invested in the pies because one of my friends, Gaz Anderson in Nottingham. Now I think I know Gaz. Yeah, I think I know, guys. Yeah, well, tell us more, Price. Tell us more. Whereabouts in the States are you? It'll be kind of lunchtime wherever you are at some point, I'm guessing. James Moore, on a side note, did anyone watch Harrogate Wrexham? Another impressive display from James Belshaw. At least 3 great stops. Imagine getting him in with Bass. Unlikely, I think, although James has always said he would love to finish his career for Notts, or at least play for Notts. Toots, yeah, Matt Tootle, I think, was at Peterborough Sports. Not sure he's there now or not. Rich Hawksworth, I went to watch Marlow against FC Totton on Saturday. Totton had Charlie Austin up top and James Beattie in the dugout. Something else tells me, Stel, that Totton have a lucrative benefactor stroke chairman.
Yeah, where have you got that from? Where do you reckon that is? Yeah, it's amazing when you hear names like that. You know, I know obviously Charlie Austin was at Swindon, wasn't he, last season? But it's amazing when you hear these names turning up playing, you know, for lower and lower league teams. Just to show you that they obviously still have the love of it. Yes, of course, somebody must be throwing them some money, but they must still have the love of the game to be doing it because, like I say, it'd be so easy for, especially the career Charlie Austin's had, to say, I've had enough. I've made me money, and I'm going to ease onto the golf course or ease into something else. But yeah, fair play. It's always good to hear them names pop up.
Yes, only a 25-minute walk for me to Doncaster this Saturday, says Donny Pye. Who else? Hopefully, I will have the local bragging rights by the end of the game. Yeah, so FA Cup second round. Just your thoughts, Stel. Well, the rules have changed. It only kind of comes home to roost, doesn't it, when you hear what the Premier League, the rationale of the Premier League clubs for no replays. Then you see Weston-super-Mare hanging on 1-1 after 90 minutes at Bristol Rovers. What a game that would have been. Surefire game on the telly. Yeah, surefire game on the telly. Probably makes them 100, 150 grand with TV, sets them up for, certainly for the year. And yet that's now completely denied. And on the face of it, it's a really difficult argument put forward by the Premier League that's been absorbed by the FA. It's really difficult to stand up, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think there's been numerous. I think it's not just Weston-super-Mare, was it? I think there were quite a number of clubs that were drawing after 90 minutes that would have got a maybe not quite so lucrative replay, but a replay nonetheless that would have boosted coffers. And I don't know why I was reading somebody. They're saying that they've basically changed it for the benefit of 4 or 5 Premier League teams, changed the whole of the FA Cup strip, and I don't understand now. There might be league clubs, League One. Bear in mind this early part, League One and League Two clubs. There might still be league clubs that don't want replays. All clubs will say we've got enough. We've got enough games. We might not be bursting at the seams, but again, you've got to remember what it's all about, the history of the cup, and what it means to clubs at a lower level. Like I said, we can't always pander to the top of the table. Of course, bring that in. So for me, I think there's a fairly simple solution. And again, I'll be shot down by people saying you can't do that, or that's not a good idea. But why can't you have replays up until the 3rd round, until the big boys actually come into the competition? Why would you not have replays up until that round, which would give your step 6 and step 7 teams the chance of, if they get a tie, of getting a replay, getting extra money? I don't think that would be disastrous to the competition. I understand the argument of not having more football, and there's plenty of it and what have you, but the big clubs aren't in it till the 3rd round. So why they've had to change it before that, I don't know. Again, it's not quite the same as everything else. Not everybody's quite canvassed on it, is it? The FA tend to do things a little bit differently, but that would be my proposition I put forward. Keep the replays until the 3rd round. Until the big boys come in, and then go right. Then you are down to 90 minutes because more often than not, the sort of the lower non-league teams have largely fell by the wayside by then anyway. So if they get drawn against a Premier League team, that they're going to make money, whether it's one game or not, or one game or two, should I say? So that would be my obvious solution. But again, I stand corrected. But I do feel for these non-league teams where like you say, Western-super-Mare to host Bristol Rovers, that to them could make a heck of a difference. Just a great night for them, a great cup night, money that they would make from it. They've been deprived of it, and for what? I don't think Bristol Rovers are moaning too much about too many games. So, the jeopardy is there for all the big clubs. If you don't want to replay, win the initial game.
Yeah, I think it's very disappointing. I think I was reading Henry Winter, friend of the show, good friend of mine, and he carries the cudgels a lot for the smaller clubs, and says it's basically inexcusable. I think I'm right in saying that under the new deal that's been brokered by the FA for the competition, the Premier League sell the rights for FA Cup games now. Which I'm not sure is a great idea, but anyway, I assume that the power brokers at Premier League can demonstrate they can raise more revenues for the sale of global television rights, given their experience of wholesaling Premier League games. And I suspect this is all part of the equation that was wrapped up. But I mean, I was listening to some of the Manchester City game at Bournemouth. Bournemouth were winning, and the commentator was talking about how it was terrible for Manchester City. They got so many injuries and they'd had to play the game, and not all the players were fit. And I'm thinking they're just a load of Galacticos, and I'm sorry, you really cannot cry it in if you're Manchester City. And Mourinho was the same at Chelsea when he was buying them all up and they were winning league titles, and it was all like, woe is Chelsea, we got 8 out or something. But I struggle to buy that. I struggle to buy any sympathy for the bigger clubs, and kind of it's almost like a cartel. Someone on here has just mentioned about, can you remember third and even fourth replays? Before your time, Notts played Birmingham City in the 1980s in the League Cup. So they were all midweek games, and there were 3 replays. So every midweek, Notts played Birmingham City, home, away, 4 times in the League Cup. So, and I know that's a bit OTT, but you've got to have one replay. You've got to have one replay. I struggle with it.
I agree, and you're right. Nobody's got any sympathy for Man City because they've got an injury crisis. Oh dear me, they're down to 11 fit internationals, I would imagine. So let's have a whip round for them. But yeah, with the FA Cup, that is. I do remember as a kid, watching second and third replays, and it became a thing like, oh, well, I hope they draw again because I want to see how many replays. It's like wanting a penalty shootout to go on infinitely, isn't it? Round through the keepers and back to everyone else again. So look, we know that can't be the case. We can't be going 3-4 replays in the calendar and everything at the minute. But like I say, I'm with you, and I think the majority of people would absolutely back a single replay in the FA Cup. Like I say, up to the third round. Up to the third round, and then you can discuss it after that. But again, I would still go. We want to see the top football players available for the top games. That's fine. But the FA Cup has always been, is, and always has been something special. And if the big clubs, for years they've chopped and changed their teams, haven't they? Utilised their squad, whatever. People say disrespect it, not taking it serious, not been a priority, whatever. But that's the beauty of having squads, and they've got, umpteen £million to staff their squad, as opposed to a Notts or even a Western-super-Mare who've got a lot less money to have a squad of players. That's their cup final, and you've got to remember the grassroots of football. I know it's difficult, all the money's at the top and they generate all the money predominantly, but you have got to remember it has to filter down, and the FA Cup is one way, a footballing, sporting way of letting the money filter down. And again, the Western-super-Mare game, no doubt that would have been a telly game as well. So they've had additional money for that, so that you've got more chance of a TV game with a replay because there's less games for TV to choose from. So, yeah, I hope they bring that back. I really do, because I think it's a feature of the football calendar and a tradition that I don't think it's better for not having.
Colin Metcalf doesn't pull any punches. It's disgusting scrapping replays. Cup shocks made me fall in love with football as a child many moons ago. Guys, they lost at Stevenage on Penn, says Andy Easom. That's another one that's missed out on a pretty lucrative replay. Chris Gosling, I have it noted that the National League Board voted for scrapping replays. I don't know whether that's right or not. It seems a bit off on the face of it. Gazali talking about, can you remember the likes of 4-3 plays? Yes, I can. Then Birmingham games, so when Martin O'Neill was playing for Notts, that would have been about 1984. It's about the most 85 maybe. It's about the most number of replays I can ever remember a game going to. There were four matches. What else have we got? Just read that Adam Chickson, says James Moore, has been elected to the PFA Players Board. Maybe he can bring it up with the PFA. Price Tracing says that he's based out in Texas. Early here, 1:30. I'm listening at work. Ian Cooksey noticed some of our loan players were allowed to play in the Cup on Saturday, and Chickson and Marias would indicate they don't feature at all in the club's plans. Dale Pikett, yes, Matt Tootle is still at Peterborough Sports. He's played 8 games, scored 1 goal, and got 1 yellow card this season. There you are. Quick bit of research from Dale. We had a total of 9 absentees on Friday, says Andy Easom. Stephen Newton, obviously of a similar vintage to me. I went to all of those games against Birmingham. So did I. And the irony was, still in the 4th game, having been tight all the way through the first 3, Knoxworth, I think they were either 2 or 3-0 down after half an hour. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Ian Cooksey, Arsenal versus Sheffield Wednesday. These were before you were born, Stel. Hang on, 15 now, maybe. Yeah, no, before you were born. Arsenal versus Sheffield Wednesday in 1979. 4 replays.
Oh, no.
I remember this as Notts were drawn against the winners, Arsenal. I do remember us playing Arsenal in the FA Cup.
I wish I wasn't born, Paul. Yeah, I was just about. I was toddler. In 79. Yeah,
I was a teenager going to watch Notts all over the place there, and we had a good team then. Chris Gosling, the best suggestion I heard over the weekend was have the prize money weighted more to lower teams in each round to compensate no replays. Interesting. Graham Oates agrees with you, Stel. Not sure on what, probably just everything. Lippy Jane, lots to talk about money, but the whole community get money. Locals, pubs, cafes, etc. for these replays and extra FA Cup games. Nigel Cameron, I remember the Birmingham City saga well. A day after Glenn Roeder went back to QPR, and that's finally lost. Notts versus Manchester City. Good point, Matt Arnold. You were born for this stuff. I think your career had ended by this time. It's about 12, 13 years ago now. If we didn't have replays, we would have missed out on a fun day at the Etihad. That's quite right. We drew 1-0. Neil Bishop put us 1 to the front, drew, and then we went up to Manchester City, didn't we, to the Etihad, and were edged out in a 5-goal thriller. We didn't get any of them. James Moore, I remember a cup game against Manchester City being replayed a few times due to a waterlogged pitch. Then the fog. Someone might be able to clarify. My memory's sketchy, but remember going. Possibly away at Huddersfield at the old Leeds Road ground, James. It was called off about 3 times. And literally in those days, it was due to be played on a Tuesday. It'd get called off at 3 o'clock. And then they put it back 24 hours and play it the following day. Health and safety is a little bit different. But just these little snapshots of conversations, Stel, kind of demonstrate the sort of the romanticism, the magic of the cup, that sort of in 3 days' time, we're going to go there, bus, all the rest of it. The kind of things you remember about things 20 years ago.
Well, that's it. You're absolutely right, and I agree with the person that says about it's not just the money; it's the infrastructure, everyone around it, everyone around the club. The pubs, the hotels, things like that, the towns, whatever it is. But it's for the fans. You have memories. You know, and it might be on podcasts like this in 30 years' time, but you talk about the Birmingham games, you know, you create an event. A replay is the chance for an event. So, again, if we're going to use that Western-super-Mare and Bristol Rovers, there's a potential event in Western-super-Mare's history that they're not going to have now, but there was a potential for a cup upset. There's something they'll be talking about for decades in the future, you know, and that's multiply that by any of the smaller clubs, you know, who can have that moment. And even at Notts level, you know, we still speak about occasionally about the drawing Chelsea when we were in administration, you know, what in well, early 2000s, wasn't it? You know, we still talk about that. It's still on the memory banks because, you know, even though we got beat, the situation, so cup ties can throw up memories, lifelong memories in some aspects, but memories for people that love football. Yes, people say, well, it's a little bit romantic, but without the romance, you know, that's what the FA Cup's all about. FA Cup shocks, moments, you know, say 4-3 plays, games like that, just things to remember for life, creating memories. And you know, yes, it's about money, of course, as well for the clubs, but it's not just solely money. So if you say about you can weight the prize money to the lower league clubs, okay, that's fair enough, but it still doesn't create these events. It stops these moments, historic football matches that, you know, to be romantic, but fathers and sons and mums and daughters and grandparents can say I was there when something happens, and it stays with you for 20, 30 years or so. So I don't see what good's come out of it. I don't see how cancelling the replays in the FA Cup, like I say, particularly up in the early rounds, up to the third round, how that makes a blind bit of difference to your Man Cities, Liverpools, and all them that are going to be playing 60 odd games a season. It makes no difference to them whatsoever. So bring it back.
Hey, I tell you what, though, just going back to something you mentioned there, the Chelsea game. I think wasn't the club in administration,
Yeah.
and you weren't allowed to swap shirts, were you? Which caused a. I think we had this conversation with
We've,
Kevin
we,
Nicholson.
yeah,
And
we've
we might
spoke
have
about
mentioned,
this
whose
before.
shirt
Yeah.
were you? Or whose shirt would you have got? And did it bother you that in the end all the Chelsea shirts ended up being raffled off by the administrators?
Yeah, well, again, apologies for repeating. We have spoken about this,
Yeah.
oh God, before, but yeah, Nico actually swapped his shirt with Joe Cole and got fined or had to pay for a replacement shirt.
I bet he was
He
chuntering, wasn't he?
he absolutely, well, yeah, he would have been, but he absolutely insists Joe Cole wanted his shirt, which I mean, come on. But what they actually did was the the shirts they worn on the night, the match shirts, they went to the club and got auctioned off for charity for money for the club, basically. So as a gesture, and I don't know how this came about, but as a gesture, they said, oh, "We'll send Chelsea set us for the players. We'll send you a set of strips up, you know, so you've all got a shirt. If you know, as in you can't swap your shirt, so you can have a shirt." They sent us a set of replica kits that has still got the tags on straight out the shop. I mean, you know, I suppose they think they're better than nothing, but you know, it's not been worn by anybody. It's still clean. So we, in the dressing room, we put them all in a bin liner one day after trade or whatever. Right, come and pull them out. And I think I've still never checked this, but I think I've still got Jesper Gronkiar's Chelsea shirt, replica Chelsea shirt, still with the tags in, somewhere in a bin bag in my garage somewhere. But you know, the mice might have had it by now. But yeah, it's talk about an anticlimax. And I'm not one for collecting shirts, so it wasn't too bad for me. But believe me, there are a few lads that weren't best pleased with it.
Yeah, so you weren't one for collecting shirts because it's
No.
big now. I noticed at the end of the game when Bournemouth beaten Manchester City on Saturday. Obviously, I had nothing better to do than dodgy stick and flick around and look at some of these games. And as Bournemouth were doing a victory lap, as you do at the end of the game for beating Manchester City, they had about 4 players who then got a Manchester City player's shirt, rather wearing it draped around the neck. I mean, what's your take? I mean, are Manchester City players being magnanimous, allowing a Bournemouth player who's just beat them 2-0 to take the shirt? Would you be one of those that's just lost the game and said, sod off, or is it? I suppose it's a different culture with these things now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good indication that the game has changed. I think that's just I can imagine, and maybe this is one for Martin Allen, not to go back to this again, but see what Eda said about players just getting beat and then swapping shirts with the opposition. Yeah, see what Eda said as a manager. If a player walks in your dressing room, you've just been beat for the first time. What 11 months is it? Man City lost. You've just been beat and you're walking with one of the opposition shirts on. I can imagine a few managers not being happy. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, look, it's the way the game is now. They've become collectors' items, haven't they? I suppose, which is it's a bit strange, but it's the way it is. I could understand it if you're getting a one-off opportunity. If Western Superman playing against Messi or something like that, I could understand it if it's an absolute one-off against an absolute superstar. But I've never really done the shirt collecting thing. If somebody beat me, the last thing I'd want to do was, it was we had all on to shake hands at the end of the game and then go in and sulk. The last thing I'd be wanting to say, well done, and can I have your shirt? No, not really. So
Chris Gosling says, Paul, the first rule of dodgy sticks is you never mention dodgy sticks. I wasn't in my house, Chris. I was at my mate Richard Stanton's. There you go. I've dobbed him.
Sold him down the river. Sold him completely down the river. Named
if them dodgy people are looking, it weren't my house. It's Richard Stanton's. I'll send you the address if you want it.
God. He'll be cursing you now, Paul.
And again, the number of people, just while we've been talking, making mention of that Chelsea game still, who were there and the memories of the night. Manchester City. Richard Elvian goes a slightly different route. We may have edged that draw with Man City in 2011 via extra time or penalties if there'd been no replay. I'd still like the replay, to be honest, to go up there and have another day out. Right. I'll tell you one thing. I don't get proved right that often, but I think I was proved right. A lot of people were quite disparaging about Harrogate. One of the worst teams we've seen in League Two, blah, 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 blah. If it weren't for Paul Belshaw. Yeah, they turned Wrexham over in the Cup on Saturday, didn't they? Turned them over. I tell you, these teams that sometimes we denigrate a little bit, I think we maybe got a little bit too much of a superiority complex. Harrogate for me will end up being halfway edge of the playoffs this season. Just a bit of a reality check, and we kind of dismiss them. That much difference between 90% of the teams in League Two this season still.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think, like I say, you always try and it's easy on a Monday night, isn't it, to try and be calm and rational, whereas you get emotional on Saturdays and Friday nights or whenever the games are. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Very, very fine differences between the bulk of the teams, certainly in League Two. And the fact of the matter is, we see teams twice a season generally, unless somebody's doing some scouting or going out. So, as we say, the up and down nature, the inconsistent nature of levels of performance. So we might see, and I thought Harrogate were tight, obdurate, but I thought, they've not got a lot to offer, particularly into the last 5 minutes. So, but that's that week. And then a week later, they're beating Wrexham in the Cup. And I know Wrexham have changed one or two players, but they've still got a strong team out. But that's just the nature of lower league football. And that you can use that as a bit of a credit for Notts to say, not that we're becoming entitled, but we are being spoilt almost by the consistent level of the nature of performances. It's been consistent mostly this season. Yes, there'll be ups and downs. We say it all the time. I don't know where you've gone, Paul. You got bored with what I'm saying. But yeah, this is the very nature.
There's a debate going on the message boards that you can't see about any Mark Stallard match-worn shirts.
Well, you've got one more than me, I think, then.
There you go. There you go.
Well, yeah, there we go. You've got one more than me, Paragon, yeah.
Have you not got you've not got a match-worn not shirt?
Me? No. Well, I'll have to have a look at it. I say every year I have to have a look at the garage, see what I have and haven't got, but I never get round to it. But I might have one. I don't think I have actually. But yeah, League Two is by its nature inconsistent. So what we see of a team, I'm going back to first game of the season, sort of Tranmere away. We sort of almost glad of a 0-0 there. Think, well, goal, clean sheet on the road. Yeah, okay, we didn't score. We had a couple of chances, didn't create too much. Now they're struggling. They get done out the FA Cup at the weekend. Just because you have one, this is what I say, you can only concentrate on the team that's in front of you on a given day. Just because a team is brilliant or not very good against Notts doesn't mean that's going to be that team week after week after week. Of course, over the season, there's sort of runs of form, if you like. But it's amazing. I like you. I wouldn't be surprised if Harrogate finished mid-table. I think they've got enough to do that. Maybe they won't score enough goals to do anything more. But again, it's difficult to predict. If we could all predict what's going to happen in the future, we'd all be down the bookies and on a Caribbean island somewhere, wouldn't we? So we can only make judgments on teams, but you have to caveat it with that is based on the 90 minutes we see Notts play against them, because hardly ever do you see them perform again until the reverse fixture. You might see somebody on the telly once, maybe twice, but not enough to really formulate an opinion like we can do about Notts, because we see them week in, week out.
Doncaster Rovers Saturday. I remember last year. I'm not sure you were there, Stel.
No, I didn't do it. No,
it was about as processional an away win as you could ever have. Notts were just so dominant for 90 minutes, and Doncaster were having a terrible time. I think the manager got the sack not long afterwards. And then second half of the season, they were kind of the form team, them and Man City, in the whole of the top 4 divisions of English football. I've not seen them this year. You would expect them to be in and among the mix, given resources, backing, infrastructure, and all of the rest of it. And in that respect, a good test on Saturday for us.
Yeah. Just say Doncaster or one of them teams out of about, I think you could name a dozen that will have realistic ambitions of promotion, and if not promotion, via the playoffs sort of thing. So, like we said, we think this is as an open a division as it has been in a long while. And Grant McCann, I remember they came to Notts last season. Oh, sorry, he came to Notts at a game last season. I forget which game it was, and they were just about on this run. And I went to speak to him because he came on loan as a player when I was playing at Notts. Came on loan from West Ham, so I know him. Went to speak to him, and sort of I was trying to tread carefully a little bit, because you know what football's like. He, from the outside in, he might have been 2 or 3 bad results from getting the tin tack. And then I spoke to him, whatever, and then all of a sudden they go on. He was telling me positives and what have you, which go fine, yeah. But then all of a sudden they go on this unbelievable run, and then they look nailed on to win the playoffs, don't they? And then come unstuck in the playoffs. So, just an incredible turnaround. Again, just showing what you can't really pigeonhole anybody in League Two. Like you say, I didn't do Doncaster away last season, but I saw the highlights, and obviously I saw them at home, and you think, yeah, they're a decent enough team, but they're not going to pull up any trees, and then they go on a run. Now this season they've started strongly, just below Notts in the table, and everyone thinks, well, these will be strong, but it can go any which way. It really can. They're scoring a lot of goals. They can scoring goals, but they're conceding goals as well. So it could be an open affair. Could be plenty of goals in it on Saturday. So I'm looking forward to the game. But they're certainly a team that will test us, because they've got goals in the team. They've got a goal scorer in Molyneux, and they're a team that, if you look back over the last sort of 6 months of matches, the end of last season and start of this, they are banging form, aren't they?
That'd be a good atmosphere. We sold all 3,000 tickets. That's really good. Have you been surprised how well we've done away from home and how resilient we've been away from home this season?
I wouldn't say surprised, no, because again, I almost think playing away. I thought this last season, but the stats didn't really bear it out. But I think the way Notts play is almost suited to playing away from home at times. Keeping the ball, but do better when teams are having to make the running, having the onus of sort of trying to force the game a little bit, having to come out. I think Notts have struggled at times when teams have just sat in and said, "Come on, break us down. You can have possession on the halfway line, but when you get near the box, we're going to close you down." I mean, so I think Notts have got the tools to be a really successful away team. And I say it's proving well, having not been beaten away from home this season. So it's going well. It'll be a tough game. Every away trip is tough because, like I say, you're not fancied away from home. It's always draw your away games, win your home games, but you're never fancied away from home. But I think against a team like Doncaster, again, I think there'll be goals, but again, Doncaster will attack, will make the running, and they will also leave themselves open. They've conceded 16 goals, I think, from their 14 league games. So, they concede goals. So I think two attacking teams who like to play a bit of football as well. I'm looking forward to a really good game, but it'll be a test, no doubt about it. But again, no more of a test than any other league game, and you go into it with a mentality that every game's a test, but winnable.
Fine Leg says, last season I backed Doncaster for promotion from the start and then spent a few weeks later in the season rummaging around looking for my betting slip. Well, in the end, it didn't quite come off, did it? Dale Pikett, they did lose to Bromley in their last home league game. Richard Elvian, Jody making good progress and making an appearance at the Newport game on the 23rd of November. I think that might be a trifle early. It might be a trifle early.
I think I know what he's on about, Paul. He's making an appearance in the hospitality with his Player of the Year award. I think they've got him up for a meet and greet. So I don't think he's on about playing. We would like him to be playing. He can do a meet and greet afterwards. But I saw, I think the club had put something out today saying you can get your tickets. He's in hospitality with his Player of the Year trophy.
Yeah. You're ahead of me, and I've just had a text from Richard Stanton, the aforementioned golfing partner. You will be hearing from my solicitor very shortly.
There you go.
I wonder will be your solicitor, or we'll be getting a knock on the door from the Fire Stick investigation team first.
Oh dear.
Oh dear me. All done in the best possible taste, as they say. Dale Pikett, quick one for you. Who's your player of the season so far, Stel?
Oh, I've not thought about it. That's a complete left field. I would probably say Dan Crowley up until the games he's missed. Do you know what? I think you could make a case for Matty Platt. You could make a case for Jacob Beddoe, Lewis McCarry. I think you could throw into the mix. I think there's quite a few. Jatta, obviously, with his goals. Yeah, I've push come to the shove because I like creative players. I would say Dan Crowley so far, but again, obviously he's injured and missed a couple of games.
Fire everybody's in player of the season so far. Is who I'd go for. Bass. I think
he's another one. Yeah.
Course of a season. I don't know whether you'd say best or most influential. I'd go the keeper.
Yeah, you can make a case for that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always worry about say keeper's player of the season. That intimates that we've been under the cosh in loads of games and seems to be peppering the goal. But I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are quite a few players that can be pleased with the starts that they've had to the season.
Yeah, I just think if you're going to win anything, it's very hard not to do anything without a very good keeper. You think of Alisson at Liverpool, you think of Ederson at Manchester City. And I know these are in the elite league, but by and large, it's very hard to win much with what I might call an average keeper. Not saying they're a bad keeper, Here's who we've got. Gazali says Jacob Beddoe. Bass says Ian Cooksey. Beddoe says Chris Gosling. Beddoe says Richard Elvian. Matty Platt says Dale Pikett. So many candidates, James Moore, hedging his bets almost as much as you, Stell. I've been so pleased to see Matty Platt excel in the heart of the defence. Beddoe says Tim Baxter. Beddoe says Neil. Bass for me, says Joe Crabtree. Bass all the way, says Derek Flowers. Bass saved us 10 points so far at least, says Richard Elvian. Matty Platt says Haz Wrightson. Defo Bass says Phil Summo. Bass or Didsey, says Phil. Bass has been absolute quality. Hardly put a single foot wrong. It's quite interesting, just in a very small straw poll of that, Stel, how many of those candidates or names are at the back end of the pitch, not the top end of the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say that, and I think that denotes how well they've all come in and done, but I think more so it denotes the vast improvement we've had as a team defensively compared to last season. We've been spoilt in recent seasons, scoring goals, creating, passing the ball, doing all the exciting things. We've been spoilt with that. That's become a little bit second nature. We've not been spoilt with keeping clean sheets and keeping the ball out at the other end. So I think that's probably why they're foremost in people's minds, and I wouldn't disagree with it at all. But I think it's just a sign of how well they've all done, how well they've all integrated at the start of the season. Like I say, they've got to kick on. We're still only a third of the way through the season, so hopefully there's more to come. But a real good start, yeah.
Excellent. You'll be at the game this time, Doncaster Stowe, presumably.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Who's in the commentary box with you this week?
It's Adam. Adam this week with me. I think Dave is down at the Remembrance Day Memorial sort of service, marching down there. I think he's achieving a bit of a lifetime ambition, but achieving something he's always wanted to do because he was in the RAF. He served previously.
Yeah.
So, a good moment for him, but obviously he misses the game. I think him and his good lady are down in London for a few days for the march. So I hope that all goes well for him. And Adam will be in the commentary box alongside me for Saturday.
Very good. Yeah, it was good to see the remembrance poppies, etc. that Notts had on Friday night. Always good to see all the clubs wearing the poppies and remembering those who've honoured and served their country. Jatta gives 100%, says A.D. Clark, has adapted to English football. He had big boots to fill with Macca. Indeed, he did. And hands up. I think he's adapted to English football far more quickly and effectively than I thought he might. I think he's done extremely well. Mark Williams, as Bass has made a huge difference this season, given confidence to all the players in front of him. Defensively, says Ahoy Pinay, we are better for sure. I'd love to see a new striker in January. Andy Eason, Cloughie always built his successful sides from his number one. I was going to make this exact same analogy, Andy, but I thought, Forest, I've got to be a bit careful. Shilton being a case in point. There were two ultimate winners for Forest, weren't there? Shilton in goal and John Robertson playing out were kind of two of the, if you like, the highlight players for Forest in that glorious era for them. James Moore. James will say he's still all right tonight. I think he is. He sounded like that time we thought he had.
I'm not sounding like that again, am I?
The owners. I think it's more Wi-Fi compatibility, I think, than anything else. Oh, you're in good health, aren't you, Stel?
I thought I was. I thought I was, but if I'm sounding dodgy, I'll have a drink. Nobody will notice then if I'm sounding bad.
They can't have a drink. When Chloe was having a gin and tonic one time on the show or whatever it was, we got some complaints from the teetotal members of the flock for promoting alcohol drinking.
It was only tea, I promise.
Right. Anyway, hey, we've done an hour. Thank you very much indeed. Apparently, it's Chesham 0, Lincoln 1 at the moment. I I don't know whether you're watching it on a dodgy stick, Matt Arnold, round at Richard Stanton's house, or whether actually it's on bona fide television. Anyway, that's enough of that. Thank you very much. 3,000 of us will all be heading up to Doncaster on Saturday. So have a good, safe and short trip that hopefully brings us back 3 points. Do not forget the Martin Allen night, Friday, December the 6th, night before the home game with Colchester. Get your tickets, act quick. There is a link on here. Look on any of our socials. You'll see how to order the tickets. £10 plus a £1 booking fee. Get yourselves in and have a great Christmas party night with Stell, myself, but most of all with Martin Allen. Thank you very much for watching tonight. Stell, thank you as always.
Cheers, pleasure as ever. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good week, and here's looking forward to Saturday.
Take care for now. Thank you again. Good night.